Hey yo peeps, this is part 2 of another video where I gathered 3 Final Fantasy XIV PvP streamers to react to Log Horizon's PvP scenes. You can check out part 1 in the pinned comment below. Also, this footage was recorded before the announcement of FF14's Viper job, so this is why it seems like they don't know of its existence. Rest assured, these streamers are still actively playing Final Fantasy XIV as of this date. Apologies for the delay, and please, enjoy the video.
You brought out the M word. Meatball.
Okay, so these outright say the monk class. Okay.
And you got this guy who's kind of like a red mage to some extent with the rapier. Honestly, this is a pretty solid like 1v1 matchup if we're gonna compare it to 14, because monks are insane in duels and so are red mages. Wow. Right on the money, dude.
Yep, your very typical MMO concepts for your spells and abilities. Which is always good to see adapted into a show.
Even the ability names are kind of similar to 14. I saw something called Shadow Kick in there. That reminds me of like Phantom Rush. Chain together techniques, yeah, it's similar to 14 where you just spam the one button combo and it's just like an ongoing rotation. Oh, so he's a swashbuckler, so he's pretty much like what the new job is going to be in 14. Presumably, you know, which is going to be Corsair. Interesting. Interesting. So swashbucklers pretty much apply debuffs to their targets in this universe. Wow, playing dirty, really, bro? Just because of a skill issue? Having your whole squad come up? No, it's kind of funny that the level cap is 90. Or is it 90 in this universe? Okay. Nice. Yeah, it's the same as 14. Okay, so she's like a white mage. A druid, okay. Okay, so it's a healing over time, so that's similar to WoW. You know, WoW druids have healing like that, where it's heal over time. Castle of Stones, that's like the paladin level rig. Makes him invincible.
Yo, he's got hollow ground.
Yeah, look at that. It's 10 seconds, isn't the paladin LB 10 seconds too? Wow, that's funny, dude. His name is Nyanta. Wow, that's funny. Oh, so they were like exploding thorns? Yep.
Nice.
There's the assassin again.
The assassin comes in out of nowhere, just as it should be.
nice. Hit him with the big wombo combo. It's actually so in-depth, dude. Just breaks down the abilities to like the minuscule details. Takes 0.22 seconds to activate. I thought it was very, very detailed as far as what was explained in the end and the whole strategy in general. I think their whole, I guess, like initial strat of just like goading a 1v1 to, you know, try to take on a group that was bigger than their own was a good idea, and they were able to get that to an extent.
Yeah, that was quite the battle, huh? That very impressive PvP fight. But I like in this scene how they basically explain a lot of different MMO mechanics, or even show them. We get to see basically them explain about cast times and cooldowns, which are very important in MMOs. We also see them, I think they briefly talk about debuffs. You know, how one class can lower, like, I think it was like the attack and defense of their opponent. That was very interesting to see, because debuffs are also important, especially in PvP. And to go along with that, the enemy monk says, "Stop jumping around and fight fair." And I thought that was really funny, because in a lot of MMOs, in the PvP aspect, we tend to move around a lot, especially in WoW. I don't know how much this happens in FF14, but I've seen a lot of people will try to like jump around their opponents, and it's either to avoid getting hit by an ability, like trying to mess up like their cast time or whatever, but it's actually a very valid strategy.
What I think of the monk class. It does remind me of the Final Fantasy XIV monk, but only because they share similar names. It does seem like it's a similar playstyle. For the druid class, it definitely reminds me of the druid class in World of Warcraft, because they also share a similar name, and they also do healing spells, and also heals over time.
I mean, I thought the monk was very similar to FF14 monk. You know, like I mentioned when we were watching it. I noticed that they had like a long list of abilities, and that kind of reminded me of just like your general, you know, monk rotation, because like, you know, monk has like the longest one button rotation in the game. You know, it's all based around, you know, essentially Phantom Rush, you know, building up to that Phantom Rush combo. There was like some similar sounding abilities, and they were talking about how monks are big on like chaining together abilities, and it's kind of similar in 14. You know, you have, you know, Phantom Rush, you have Enlightenment, you know, you have your Meteor Drive combo. Yeah, so the Druid, when it comes to 14, it kind of reminded me of, as far as like, you know, the spells he was casting, kind of reminded me of White Mage a little bit. But it was mentioned that, you know, Druids have HOTS, so like heal over time abilities, and that's very similar to Wild Druid, like I was talking about when we were watching the clip.
Moving on to the Swashbuckler. This is something we might be seeing in Final Fantasy soon, so it's kind of exciting to see that in action. Dual Swords class that looks like it's meant for offensively, making, you know, aside from maybe debuffing their opponent a bit, making multiple strikes like in a combo attack, which is why it paired very well with that Thornbind hostage spell.
I think it's pretty cool because you get to do a bunch of debuffs. I wish there was a class that's similar to that in Final Fantasy XIV.
I mean, one thing about PvPers, you know, a good amount of them have egos, right? So you can like goad somebody on, be like, hey, like, you know, 1v1 me, bro. It really depends on the player, right? But obviously the monk in the show had an ego and thought he could handle 1v1 when, you know, he got his butt beat. So yeah, I mean, that could work to some extent. As far as just overall strategy, the coordination that they set up with, you know, the Thorn Break and having it go off at like the perfect time was, you know, a very big brain play, you know, that's definitely like something that is possible. But you know, obviously something like that requires like a good amount of coordination.
It's so funny to see because, like, once again, you have a 1v1 going on between a swashbuckler and a monk, which honestly just kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy XIV PvP in general, just the monk and another melee having their own duel off in Narnia.
I do have experience in tournaments and with having people communicate and how it is similar in the anime. We have to remember if people's spells went off or if their guard is up or gone, and then you can actually focus on the target. Say, like, if someone's guard just came off, we switch over to that target, and you communicate that so that people can have a single target instead of like focusing wherever.
Then, of course, you have all these other people focusing this tank who's using, like, his howls to lock them down, and then after they beat on him a bit, he just goes into Castle of Stone or something, which is very much like Hollowed Ground, the Paladin ability from 14, which is in PvP a perfect, you know, stall tactic. And the funny thing about this is like in some games, you know, had they had a healer there, like a stronger healer, he could have been healed back up to full HP, and that would have been a really good reset. A good example of this in World of Warcraft, Paladins in PvP, like, you get them down low and they can pop their invulnerability, and then they could just heal themselves back up to full. They don't even need a healer, they can do it themselves. So it's really funny to see in this context, and the fact that they just, like, they attack him once, and then, like, after they realize he's invuln, they just kind of stand around and stare at him. And meanwhile, there's this level 19 druid and Shiro, who's level 90, in the backline, just standing there the whole time, not getting any pressure at all.
You know, of course, with the antagonistic party, it's kind of similar to the last clip that we watched, where you had, you know, a group that was just uncoordinated. You know, the monk got goaded on when they had, like, a numbers advantage, so they could have just took him out with the numbers if he didn't accept the 1v1 initially. So those are some things I would have probably changed.
So the only thing I would have done differently is, as soon as the group that attacks the warrior is locked down and can no longer, you know, really move much, you send that assassin out to take out the mages immediately. Because the mages can help support either, you know, the melees that are, the people that are being locked down, or they can choose to also, like, send their spells at the back line, or they could even support their monk. So the sooner you send that assassin in, once the melees are locked down to take out the mages, I think the better. I think just executing that a bit sooner would have been better. I think they kind of leave it till later for, like, dramatic effect in the show, but yeah, I don't see any reason why the assassin couldn't have struck a bit earlier.
I thought it's pretty accurate because if you know the timing and cooldowns of your abilities, you can definitely sync your abilities with your teammates and focus down the enemy. And you also need to communicate well with your teammates.
Yeah, I definitely give this scene a 10. Because this one, especially, you start to see the amount of detail they put into this about, like, MMO stats and various MMO mechanics that come into play in the games we play. It's a pretty accurate representation of how PvP's played out in general. You know, you have one side that makes good decisions and you have one side that makes bad decisions, and that's why they lost the fight.
I give it another 8 out of 10. It seems like whoever wrote this is a big MMO fan. They have, like, a good amount of experience with just MMOs overall, and it's pretty smart too. Like, I like the strategy aspect. You know, it's not like, you know, not trying to talk shit about SAO, but SAO does not have anything like that. It's pretty much just flashy animations and a good soundtrack, and that's it. Where this is, like, more smart.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more, please comment and like the video to let me know. If you're interested in anime and gaming content, then consider subscribing to my channel. I also stream over at twitch.tv/AeonXII, where I play a variety of games including Final Fantasy XIV, Elden Ring, Persona 3 Reload, Tekken, and many other games. Alright everyone, take care of yourselves and stay frosty. See ya!